I'm Peggy Sue Winterman, Peggy Sue Jones, and I was born September 25, 1932. My dad was George Thomas Jones, and my mom's was Lida Burton. The reason I'm named Peggy is because when one time Mama saw an ad on her somewhere, and it was named Peggy's Dog Food. And she thought, well, she knew, and then she said, if I have a little girl, I'm going to name her Peggy. So she named me Peggy Sue. My brothers and sisters are John Kenneth, the oldest, then George Emerson, then Eula, and then I'm number 4, Peggy Sue, Gladys Clarine, Billy Kemp, after the doctor that delivered all of us. Maybe they thought that was going to be the last one, who knows. Gary, Edward, Linda Fay, and Jeannie Marie. All of our houses was pretty well 4 rooms houses. That included the kitchen. Of course, we didn't have bathrooms, so. And no, actually, we all pretty well just slept in. We all slept in the same rooms. And I remember when Mama would have a new baby. Well, then of course the baby slept with her because she nursed all of us. And then the one that was born next to that one would sleep at the foot of the bed. I remember that. Oh, and something else I remember when we were growing up is of the stamps to mail a letter was 3 cents, and you could buy a postcard for a penny. And we always had a mail carrier. I remember, yeah, we always had a mail carrier. And for as long, even as far back as I can remember, Mama and Daddy always took a newspaper. Grade school was named, till I get to the 5th grade, was a Hubbard school, the 1-room schoolhouse. And then, when it closed, I went to Poole. Finished grade school there and graduated from high school. I graduated from high school in 1950. Well, when I was growing up, I guess we just grew up. I don't remember having any hobbies or anything. I can remember now, too, that when I was a senior in high school, I was the senior queen. I remember that, back to that, so.
You remember who the king was?
Yeah, Jimmy Allender. I still have our picture, too. As soon as I got out of high school, I come to Evansville. Eula was already living at the YWCA, and I moved in there, and Eula was working at Woolworth's, so I got a job there. And then, no, I'll take that back. She'd already got her another job. But I got a job at Woolworth's. A guy that used to work there actually worked at Woolworth's. He came in to visit, and he also, when he worked there, he knew Katie, who was my boss then, and he came over and sat down and ordered something, I don't remember what, and because he came over to visit with Katie, she introduced us, and that's who I married about 2.5 months later. So Mom and Daddy had never met him or anything. I can't imagine all this. Honestly, I don't remember how he asked me out the first time. I really don't. I remember him coming to the Y, and I guess we went to a movie. I don't know. I don't remember. I guess I was so in love that I don't remember all those minor things. Oh, and after we met, 4 days later is when he went back to Williams Air Force Base in Mesa, Arizona. and after he left, then we wrote letters back and forth, and I've still got all those letters in a box in here. I do. Anyway, and then on about February, I'm going to say maybe February 22nd, I boarded a Greyhound bus down here in Evansville, and took 3 days to get out to Phoenix. And he already had a place for us to live. And on February the 28th, we went to the courthouse in Phoenix, Arizona, and said our I do's. And we didn't have, we had a guy named Chris, one of Dad's friends in service, that stood up with us, and we didn't have anybody else. So the judge's secretary came out and stood up with us, and that was it. And after we were married, after we lived out in Mesa, and wish I could remember the name of the street. I can put it in there later because it's in my letters that I have in there. But anyway, then I found out I was pregnant. I guess I just went to the doctor or something, and he told me I was pregnant. And then Buddy was born at Williams Air Force Base. Then I got pregnant with Sandy, and you want me to tell what I said to Joe on the way to the. At this time, the railroad tracks was really, really bad on Division Street, and as we was going down to the old at that time St. Mary's was on First Avenue or wherever it was down there, and we was going down the Division Street. I looked at Joe and said, "Well, we're going to have a little girl this time." And he said, "How do you know?" And I said, "'Cause this would shake the balls off of anybody." So anyway, we moved into 1316 John Street, and I can't remember how long we lived there. I'm going to say about 3 years. And then we moved over to 812 North New York because Colonial Bakery was building a place right down the street from us, and they bought our house. So we moved over on North New York, and then when we moved into 1323, we remodeled the house. All the way through, lowered all the ceilings, and we had a guy helping us. His name was Mr. Baker, that helped us do all of it and everything. But we completely redone the inside. And even when Buddy and Sandy were, I'm going to say, 3-4 years old, we always took a vacation every year. And we went out west. We saw the Grand Canyon, California, Disneyland, went to Disneyland, and all of that, yeah. And Daytona Beach. Gosh, Daytona Beach, that's for sure, yeah. It's where we spent a lot of summers there. So I always went in August when Joe got his vacation. While we were still living at 1316 John Street, that's when I started my babysitting, because Buddy was going into kindergarten, and my sister Gladys needed or wanted to go to work, and she asked me if I would take care of her little 2-year-old daughter, Tammy. And I thought, well, that'd give Sandy someone to play with. And so that's when I started my babysitting. 3 days later, Jewel Norvell lived 2 doors down from us. She had a son named Norman, and she came up and asked me if I was watching that little girl, and I said yes. And she said, "Well, would you want to take care of Norman for me?" And I thought, well, what's one more? So anyway, so I started taking care of him, and that's how my babysitting got started. And that's when and how it got started. And I'm still at it. That's how my babysitting started, and that has been about 58 or 59 years ago now. And I've never advertised, and I've never been without a waiting list. And I started out with 2, and there's times that I had up to 5. And of course, I've enjoyed every minute of it. And people will say, "God, Peggy, are you ever going to quit?" And I keeping these kids. And I would say, when my health fails or I don't enjoy it. And up to this very day, I still enjoy it. So, one time, Carolyn and Ken Wood, I kept their son, anyway, their oldest kid. And so Carol, both of them were teachers. And Carolyn came in one day and said, "Peggy," she said, "I need to talk to you." And I said, "Well, sit down." And she said, "We want to have another baby." And she said, "But I won't leave a kid anywhere else." And she said, first off, she said, "I can't afford to quit." And she said, I wouldn't take a kid anywhere else. So you tell me when you're going to have an opening. I told her when I was going to have an opening, and they had Michael, and I babysat him. And then I just remembered the first one's name was Lee. And one day after his kids had been here maybe 4 or 5 years, because then, see, I kept his kids, and he came in one day and he said, Peggy, we was talking about me babysitting, how long I'd been at it, and he said, "Oh, you'll probably keep my babysit, my kids, or my grandkids." And I said, "Hell, I'll be 110. And he said, "Wouldn't surprise me." So anyway, yeah, I've enjoyed my babysitting. And then besides that, I have done for a long time a lot of alteration work for a lot of people. And there's quite a few people that I ironed for, because nobody likes to iron. And they paid me good money to iron, so that's what I've done too. So I've had a full life, that's for sure. When we moved back to Evansville, Joe started working downtown at Harding and Miller, because that's where his dad worked and his brother worked and everything. Well, then I guess that is when, maybe that's not when Whirlpool started, but then he started working at Whirlpool, and that's the only places he ever worked. Then he stayed to work there for 37 years then. And then he retired at 60. The only thing changes I can really see in the world is people. People just, like when I was growing up, well, of course, when I was growing up, everybody knew everybody, and people were just nicer then. You didn't have to worry about stepping on anybody's toes and that. But other than that, I mean, there's been so many changes, I really couldn't put it in words. Thinking of other changes in my life, of course, one of them is, I'm glad I've got a sewing machine, because electric sewing machine, because I have sewed on a treadle sewing machine. I'll tell you, I have, and I appreciate an electric sewing machine and everything else that makes life easier. Microwaves, having a house that has electricity in it, and running water, and a bathroom in the house, but I guess I could, if I had time, I mean, if I really could set my mind to it, I could think of a lot of things that's changed, yeah. one thing I'm very, very, very proud of is the way that Joe and I raised Buddy and Sandy. There's just not enough room to how thankful I am the way they've both turned out, and the people that they both married, the children that they have, and the only thing that I could hope for or wish for the children, for the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren is just live, do what makes you happy, what you're comfortable with makes you happy, and just make sure you always keep God in your life. I wish everybody had as much faith in God as I do, because I know what all God has done for me. And God is, and every day, not just one time a day, I thank God for everything He has done for me and everything He is still doing for me. I thank Him for our family. I probably pray more than a lot of people do. I don't think I do. I know I do. And I think that's one reason that I've had the life that I have had. I don't have to think it. I know it. I know it is. I know God's in charge of everything with my life, and I appreciate everything He has done, everything He's still doing, with being here with us right now. And I know He is. I guess one of the best things about getting older is I'm so thankful for where I live and the life that I live, the good health that I have had, the good health that I still have, and the biggest thing is having family and having spent 57 years with Joe, and when it's time for him to go, that God didn't let him lay and suffer, and we had a good life together. I know where he is now. I know he's up there with Mama and Daddy, his Mama and Daddy, his brothers and sisters, and I know all of that, and that's why I'm as comfortable with my life as I am.
I tell you, this will be the year that I will find my place. So look out, world, 'cause here I come. I'm coming for you fast. What's done is done, what's gone is gone, and my future's not my past. It's a new day for me. I feel it in my bones, I feel alive, I am set free. It's a new day for me, and nothing in this world will interfere. It's a new day for me. I feel it